pounds.
Yep, same here, probably. Mostly. All right. What do we got, Ben? We got Don, Sergey. Anybody else hopping on right away, or we're just gonna hop into it?
That's it.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. So today we're just gonna go over a couple of quick things. All right, we're having some content discussion that I want to do, and then I might take a look at a couple of people's pages. If there's Don's on here, I might just look at your page, my man, and we're just gonna audit it real quick. I'm not going to be able to share screen because we're having some technological problems this weekend, which is fantastic, but we'll just go from there. And then if you guys have any questions on Messenger, like if you guys have tried to set any Messenger appointments, or if you've tried at all in any way to set appointments in any other systems and you're wondering, like, you know, why is my messaging not working? Am I doing it wrong? As part of my process, just not up to par. Mr. Ben is going to help you out with that right afterwards. Okay, guys, that sound good? Give me a thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about the two types of content. All right. So there's two types of content that we all work with. Now, some of you guys that are in the GST program have heard me say this a lot. Some of you guys that are not, and you've just been kind of doing these calls, you've heard probably one side of it a lot from other people, or you've seen one side of it a lot from other places, and that's based content. Right. So you've all seen the 2 steps and the launch posts and different kinds of stuff that even myself and Rahul do quite a bit. Yes. Thumbs up if you guys have seen those before. You know what I'm talking about when I say conversion-based content. Don gave me a thumbs up and Roberto doesn't give me a thumbs up. Do you know what I'm saying, Roberto? There we go. You guys are the only ones on screen. So I gotta call you guys out now. So, you know, when we're talking about permission-based messenger, when we're talking about actually, you know, authentically attracting our audience, which means not going out and cold spamming people all day long, but creating content that actually gets people to raise their hands, right, and say, hey, I really want to work with you. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about conversion-based content. All right, and we'll dive into that just a bit in a minute. But the other part that I really want to focus in on today is what I call how to think content. All right, and so this is where it's really important to lace this kind of stuff in. And what it is at its core is leveraging things like story posts, like a long form story post or a live that you're going to do, something that allows you to leverage your story to teach them something without having to actually talk down on them. All right. Because one thing that we don't want to do with our content, and especially this kind of story-based content stuff, is to tell people that right, you're wrong. Right? That's not what we want to do. And a lot of people to do that. Like they're trying to tell you, you know, you're doing all of this incorrectly. You've gone about cold DMing people, or you listened to the last guru who told you to do this kind of a post and you're an idiot. So let me show you how to actually do it. That turns people off. Right. And it's something that a lot of people resort to, either calling their audience dumb or calling the people that their audience have listened to dumb. And all it does is turn most people off. But if you can somehow create a story-based piece of content. So for instance, I went live, can't remember, I think a couple of weeks ago, about how investing in myself over the last like 10 years. And I kind of mapped out my journey, I think, in the 7-figure GST group, right? And I mapped out my own personal journey from like 10 years ago and different steps I took that allowed me to kind of put this shit into hyperdrive and make more money and accomplish more and help more people and just kind of grow my sphere a little bit more, right? Now, I didn't say anything about what they should do or what they've done wrong along the way or where they might be going wrong at this time. All I did was tell what I did and what I accomplished. Now, can anybody guess what I'm trying to teach people by doing that story in the group? Somebody put in the chat or come off mute or something, because we want to make this a little more interactive. You know, what do you think I was trying to accomplish by having a story post like that, a teach them how to think post like that inside of our group? Wake up, people. I will stare at you all day until somebody puts something in the chat or comes off mute and talks to me.
I think you're trying to get across that.
We got Chris, Brett, Sergey. How's it going, guys?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Don. How's it going, my man?
Good. I think you're trying to get across that you can be successful if you follow a path.
Mm-hmm. That's part of it, for sure. Anything else you glean from it?
No, you probably, sorry, I'm just
cooking and doing all the stuff simultaneously. So you just basically use your story to kind of educate slash address certain objections, right? So like, does it really work? Can I do that? You know, like just this is a fairly typical kind of scenario in sales letters. So you just basically use story about yourself, activating these how do you call it, neurons, mirroring neurons, I think, right? So that people can actually imagine that, you know, just how they could do that as well.
Yep, exactly.
Much, I think.
Well, that's perfect, Sergey. Good. Awesome. Good, man. So, yeah, so Don and Sergey both have really good points right there, especially that last one by Sergey where it is about objections, right? So what I'm trying to do oftentimes, pretty much all the time, when I'm leveraging my how to think content, when I'm going out of my way to try and teach you something from my own story, that's usually to get in front of objections that you're going to find a lot. Right. And so one of those common objections is money scarcity mindset. It's, you know, I'm broke, or maybe it's that I have a little bit of money right now, but I don't know if I want to spend that on this. Right. What I might want to spend it on is what I'm already doing. Right? I'm barely clinging on. If I invest that money into your program or into your done for you service, there's an issue potentially that I won't be able to do it because they have an expense mindset. Right. They're viewing this as something that's coming off the ledger instead of something that's going to grow on the ledger, instead of something that's going to actually generate returns for them. And so I'm using that teach them how to think content, right? I'm using that story of my own to show them how when I invested in my higher ticket skills, like 8 years ago, my revenue went up, my quality of life increased, right? And I'm teaching them how, like, when I really started putting money in, when I really developed a money abundance mindset, our businesses took off. And, you know, the path, like what Don is saying, is persistence. But the path is not only that persistence, but there's certain key points on it, right? We'll call them like inflection points, turning points for everywhere where it went from this to like this, right? Was always, and then that's where you insert the objection. And it's the truth as well, right? Because my audience happens to be me. Right? Well, what do we work with? We work with agencies and we work with coaching programs. And what do I own? A coaching program and an agency for a long, long time. So my story happens to relate specifically to my audience, specifically to you guys, because at some point during it, I've been in all of your positions. And so I can tell that in a way that gets the brain firing, like Sergey is saying, specifically with you having a way to connect with it, right? A way for you to envision yourself where you are, to feel yourself at some point of my story, and how right after that, I used something to actually improve it all, to make my story better. And that's where it gets to the point where now, okay, now you're going to think differently, right? And so we want to mark down all of these objections. We want to create an ongoing list, right? Don't make assumptions, because if we make assumptions, we're probably always just going to come back to, they're all broke. Well, maybe they're not all broke, right? Maybe they just aren't actually completely certain in your product. They're using it as an excuse. And so if you can dive through and keep good notes, meaning, you know, figure out what actually is going on, get past the smoke screen, get past the bullshit, and actually write down what you think the true objections are. You can use the teach them how to think content to be able to get past those objections and be able to figure out a way to not even run into them on the call in the first place, because you're going to be actively getting in front of your audience and actively doing it. And don't be afraid, guys. A lot of you guys, you know, you're always trying to think of something brand new to say, right? You're going live and you're trying to think, or you're going with your content. You're like, shit, last week or the week before, I already said this, so I should try and say something brand new. That's not the case. I go live on money abundance mindset all the time. I go live on the power of decision making all the time. I go live on the culture of getting shit done all the time, because that's something that has come across in our own marketing, and it's something that people find important, and it's something that I truly do find important. And so I go live on it all the time, just to say it over and over and over again. What's important here? Yeah, it's important that we have probably the best course material and the best program and the best coaching you can get, but it's equally as important to me the culture that we embody, the get shit done attitude, right? Where to be frank, you see me or Rahul, Ben, on any of these calls talking, we sometimes can come off as like an asshole. I tell people all the time, look, it's like walking a tightrope with me. Everyone's always said it to me my whole life. You either want to hug me, over here, or sometimes you flip to the other side. You want to punch me in the face, and that's okay, because what we're all about here is just making sure that you aren't getting fed bullshit, but you're getting fed help from people who have done this shit before, and we just want to help move the needle. And I find it really important to teach people how to think that way about us, right? Because we want them to understand what's just as important as the program is the culture and the level of accountability that we provide. And this kind of content is super, super important to have there. So you got to find, like, what is it you want to come across? What objections do you want to actually try and pre-handle as it is, to get people to do that, and write that shit down, and then repeat yourself. Because if you're doing it right, and even those of you, I'm looking right now through here, most of you guys are actually in the program, and even those of you who aren't, the couple of you that aren't, what's up, Chris? Hey, showed his face and he rocked out good, guys. Don't be afraid of me. Okay. I do enjoy you guys actually looking at me on Zoom. That's good. I'm looking at my phone, so I can only see one or two of you at a time. So I still go and swipe. But if you put it down correctly, right? And this is what I'm saying, put down the information. You run into the same objection over and over again, you write it down. Repeat this shit. So if you're doing it right, and like I was about to say, those of you who aren't in the program, you guys have seen some Perfect Stranger method training, meaning our organic content system training, our organic method training out there, right? So you know how to progress, and we're going to get into some conversion-based content talk here in a second. And you should be growing your damn audience, right? That there should be new eyeballs on your page, on your profile, on your offers, on your content every single week. As long as you're doing that correctly, right? As long as you have it set up so that you are, in fact, getting those new people every single week, then it only sounds like you're repeating yourself to you. The other half of that is, right, even though you have a lot of people that are going to see the same content, they don't all see it. Take a look at your reach, right? I'm always capped out of that 5,000 friends. It never gets anywhere near 5,000 people on every single post. Some posts do. Some posts get a shit ton of reach. Other posts don't get any at all. But I'm repeating myself, because repetition is the mother of learning. And so you need to repeat yourself to actually get your point across. You can't just say it once, tell your story one time in one format, and hope that your whole audience happened to not only see it, but absorb it. So kept there, right? So just stop right there for a second, guys. Put in the chat or unmute yourself and talk if you think you've fallen in the trap of always thinking you have to come up with something brand new to say for every single piece of content. That kind of stuff can weigh you down, right? That's the kind of stuff that can keep you from actually being able to accomplish what you're doing, and it can keep you kind of spiraling. Yep, Chris, Don, the guys, right? And so that's not what we're trying to do, especially with the teach them how to think content. Even the conversion-based stuff, guys, if you wait a certain amount of time, you can post the same thing, because if you're doing it properly, you're growing your audience. And if you're growing your audience, that's new eyeballs, new people to see. So I want you guys to get away from that habit, because there's certain habits like that when you're doing content creation, when you're doing promo cycles. Those kind of habits are going to keep you kind of locked in place, right? Those kind of habits are going to keep you unable to think. You're going to get writer's block. You're going to have an issue. You're not going to be able to constantly create new stuff. We have, for instance, promo cycles that we use that a lot of you guys have access to the exact template. But we don't go and create brand new posts for it every time. What we'll do is we'll just update. If we have a new offer, we'll update it. If it's something we ran a year or so ago, we'll just use the same post, right? There's whole new people on our profile. There's a whole new group of people on our list from the ads that we've been running. There's a whole new group of people in our group just from joining the actual group. There's new eyeballs to see that stuff, and it worked previously. We tweaked the parts that we think didn't work, and it continues on from there. And to teach them how to think stuff, the messaging is almost always the same, right? Maybe I'm going live, so it's not the exact same video, and maybe I'm telling the story in a little bit of a slightly different tweak, but the stories and the points of the stories don't really become edited all that often, right? We're usually battling the same objections because we keep a list of that. We keep an understanding of that, and we know what we need to do to teach our own audience. And that comes from market research, right? That comes from recording our sales calls. That comes from really keeping a finger on the pulse at all times. All right. So the last part about this teach you how to think content part here, guys, that I really want to kind of go over and pound home is the different formats we can do it. Now, I personally like to go live and tell the stories that way. That's just how I like to show up on video, face to face, just like this, tell the story. Maybe throw the whiteboard up on there, right? And just kind of go through the different points that I'm trying to get across, the different bullet points that I have on there. And then the other format is written, right? We will write a story post. Maybe we'll throw a picture on there, whatever. But the point is not necessarily the vehicle, but the story being told in the way that you're connecting. My purpose for the vehicle of it, so whether it's a long form written post or a long live story post that we do, my purpose for that is just to have different mediums at all time, because different people learn in different ways. And so for people that see the inside the program, we often have graphics for you to learn, we have videos for you to learn, we have whiteboard trainings, we have actual quizzes for you guys to take, assets for you to just duplicate, and coaching calls for you to both listen to and partake in. We try and make sure that people are approached and kept accountable and supported in all the different ways that they could learn, because every individual learns in a different way, right? So different people are going to absorb what you're trying to say differently and better depending on how you present it to them. Some people really like to watch videos. Some people don't like to watch them at all. They prefer to see it in an infographic or read it on a story. And so we need to present it in different ways to be able to get it to the people. So all of that long-winded story, guys, is to say, teach them how to think content is super important. And it's often something I think that's really left out. It needs to be sprinkled in, and it needs to be repeated. You need to say it again and again and again and again until it's drilled into people's heads, and they can finally start putting that into practice themselves, so that when you hop on a sales call, they'll already be thinking differently, right? All those people who were thinking this is an expense and I can't afford to make it can now show up to the call instead trying to figure out how they'll pay for it, trying to say, you know what, I need this as an investment into my business, because if not, I'm going to stagnate and die. And if I do it, I have the real possibility of growth, right? If you can get those kind of points across, your sales calls are going to be a lot easier, number one. But number two, you're also naturally going to authentically attract a lot more people, right? And a lot more of the right type of people who are in the right type of mindset to be able to push forward and actually work with you. Does that make sense, guys? Anybody have any questions on that before I kind of move over into the conversion-based content part of things? Put in the chat or come off mute. There's not too many of you guys. If you want to come off mute, you go ahead. If not, you can drop ones in the chats, fire emojis in the chats, whatever works best.
Can you give us an example of a quick story?
Oh, sorry, Don. Hold on. I cannot hear you. Talk.
Can you give us an example of a quick story
Yeah. So
that you do live?
yeah, just the other day, I went over this just the other day in the 7-figure group. So literally, I went over my entire story, but I focused on different parts of that story. So I focused on, I've been doing this for 10 plus years now, and so I focused on the first couple of years having a low amount, right, a low amount of revenue, but thinking that was good because it was 10 years ago and whatever. I was fresh at a college, just got my degree, thought I was awesome shit. But as I went through that process, like I really learned slowly at first, because it was a different age back then, that I needed to really invest in the skill set, because I could get clients really well, I could keep them, I could do a good job, but I knew that there was a better way. So when I finally started to invest in my skills, so it started with, really digging into Facebook ads, Google ads, SEO. I could code back then. Blech, waste of time. But yeah, I could do all that shit. That was great. Got really, really good at what I did, and became, much better. It really took off then. And then over the course of the next few years, I continuously invested in that, sales skills. It really, really started to take off. And then around year 5, that's when we started putting the real money down. 50,000, 100,000 plus masterminds and that kind of stuff over the course of there. And we spend that pretty much every year now. And that's what's allowed us to really dive into being 7-figure business owners in both the agency side and the coaching side as well. And so I elaborated on that more, but just understanding that the inflection points was when I got out of my own head and actually invested in those skill sets, and deciding, like, knowing where's my bottleneck, where's the gap, and who's a few steps ahead that can actually fix that shit. Like, who do I know and what can I find that actually has, taken those first few steps ahead of me that I can invest in and buy that fast pass, right? I can invest in and actually skip the line by just using their knowledge and by telling them where I was before that, right? And then telling them that was a solution that I did. I'm teaching people to think about it that way, to think about that as being a turning point, finding the right mentors and actually investing in themselves to be able to hit that next level, and how that actually is. And those are all true things. How that actually is what helped me accomplish it back in the day. Does that make sense? Awesome, Don. Chris, you got a question? You got your hand up there, man. What's going on?
Yeah, that was actually a really solid point that you were kind of sharing. And I'm actually like kind of thinking about that too. I've only been in the game for like maybe 2 years, so to speak. And I'm kind of trying to decide like what skill set should I be focusing on. You see what I mean? So I feel like it's kind of mediocre across the board. But I know with me trying to learn everything at one time, I'm not going to get that much better at anything. So I'm just trying to get this little bit. I know it's no right answer, but it's like some direction on it. As far as should I be like focusing on like improving my sales skills, or would it be more beneficial to learn how to like run ads more efficiently? And it's kind of,
to me, that depends on what's the biggest bottleneck for you right now, right? Is the biggest bottleneck for you right now that you don't have enough clients, or is that you can't keep your clients that you already have?
Both of them are bottlenecks.
All right, then we gotta do both. I mean, you got inside the GSD, you got both of those options, right? And so, like, to me, that means for next week, what you got to do is you got to dive through the sales module, and then you got to dive through the fulfillment course, specifically the Facebook ads part of it, right? And learn the testing methodology, learn all that shit that we're doing. Take your issues with your clients, write them all down on a piece of paper. Take your issues with your sales, write them all down on a piece of paper. And then Tuesday and Friday of next week, you show up with good questions. And not just about like an individual campaign, but about, like, for me, your skill set in general. Like, where do you think you're actually lacking in ability? Is that going to be, just writing ad copy? Is it going to be how to set up campaigns properly, different layers to the campaigns that you need to understand better, like retargeting, top of funnel, middle of funnel, that kind of stuff? If you show up with those kind of questions, we can dive deep, my man, and also just, abuse the shit out of my question thread inside the coaching program. And if we have to hop on one too, we can do that as well. But I want to make sure, like, whatever you choose, for me, if it's offers, traffic, organic, whatever, like, we'll go through this as rough as we can. And then for sales, just get on Rahul and do the same thing. Because I honestly, if it's both, then it's both, my man. We just got to double down on our effort, and you've got the ability to train up and sharpen both those knives right now.
Okay. And then pretty much the biggest bottleneck with ads is I know how to build it out. I know I pretty much have like ads and stuff that I can use. It's really just like optimization. Like, after getting an ad running and it does well, then it kind of tapers off a little bit. Like, knowing how to make that pivot to keep that same momentum. And that's really like the thing that's been hindering me the most.
Cool, man. What I want you to do first, I want you to drop that as a loom or as a question on my question thread. I've already got that all done. There's a optimization flow chart inside of the program. That, in combination with the setup flow chart and the testing methodology, is what you need to dive deep into and actually just use a couple times. So put that question on my question thread. I'll loom you and send you the assets, and then I want you to practice it by next Friday, and we're going to review what you did by then and crush that shit.
Okay. And then just one more thing. I don't want to hold you up too much. I know we kind of talked on Friday. You mentioned that I could speak with one of my team members about using their ad accounts, because mine did get banned maybe 6 months ago. So I've been white labeling since then. So that's why I haven't been running ads pretty much, because I don't have an ad account to run ads from. But you said it was a good idea to explore with one of my employees trying to use their ad account to test it out.
Yeah, I mean, your employee, maybe if you've got a girlfriend or a brother or a sister or somebody who'd be willing to let you, who doesn't use it for that kind of stuff, that'd be willing to let you use it to run ads. That could be a process. You could always set up a backup account or try and buy a backup account. But honestly, I think your best bet is that first, and kind of go from there. If you have an employee like a VA or something that's willing to do it, then they're already employed by you. If you can do it that way, that would be your best bet to start with. You could even try and create a backup account and warm it up. It's going to take time though, and it might get banned anyway. So your best bet is probably just an employee or a sibling.
And then also to use a VPN or a proxy, right?
Yeah, you'll have to. It'll almost be backwards. Like you'll have to use a VPN for wherever they live.
Okay, got you. Okay, man. Thank you, brother.
No problem, Chris. Thank you, my man. All right, so. Okay, cool, guys. All right, now I want to briefly go over conversion-based content now, okay? So the teach them how to think stuff is all about getting them already getting them past objections, teaching them how to think differently about not only your product, but having an actual mindset change to be able to approach your product or your service or whatever in a different way and be able to actually understand it and be willing to purchase in a way that they wouldn't have been previously to that. Okay. Conversion-based content, this is literally right in the name, right? This is where we're trying to get people to raise their hand in the comments and say, yeah, hell yeah, I'm interested in that. And now there's different layers to this, all right? And a lot of you guys who are in the program, you've seen the promo cycle and how we build up to this. We use things like testimonials, stories, client interviews, successes, documenting instead of creating, which I'll go over in just a second, and then teach them how to think content. And then we will use all of that to build up to certain conversion-based events. Then we have things like engagement posts and questions that can be seen as both conversion-based or engagement-based, all right? Specifically, our main, we'll say 3 types of engagement posts, of conversion-based posts are going to be our 2-step. And I'm not going to dive too deep into these because I know you guys have seen the perfect stranger method with me before, but our 2-step. All right, and our 2-step is what kind of an asset do you have that the other person would want on the other end? Make a post about that. Now, 2 steps can be longer form posts or they can be smaller type posts, but the main features they've got to have, guys, and the one I've seen this work and or fail time and time again, is got to be based around the scary offer concept, okay? So it means language that your customer relates to and specificity with a big end result. So like with everything, if you can make a scary offer for it that actually connects with your customer, then you're going to actually be able to win. You're going to actually be able to do it. All right. So always be thinking scary offer. And every time, even the small stuff, just like this, when you're just doing posts and content and that kind of stuff, you got to be thinking scary offer because that's how you're going to actually win the day. All right. So in this scenario, it's like, if you go to my profile, I've got a post pinned there that's had about 700 comments. It's a simple 2-step. If I go there right now, look at it. Let's see what it looks like. I'll read it out to you and we can see why it looks or it worked so good. So we closed 10 new clients in 3 weeks using a simple system in Facebook ads for our agency. Now we want to give you the full process, 100% free. Do you want in? Now somebody drop in the comments, why do they think, or they come off and talk off mute, why do you think that post in particular performed so well? In the comments, in the chat, or come off mute.
Because of the free offer?
That's one reason. Yep. What else do you see in there, Don? Think scary offer. Oh, go ahead.
That's the well, I mean, it's no brainer. So it has social proof. It's it's no brainer. It's social proof. It's free and it's easy to implement. Well, I mean, relatively, right? So like we have a proven blueprint, meaning that there's a step-by-step system involved. Anyone can do that. And so, yeah, I think the combination of these kind of 4 or 5 elements make it so attractive.
Perfect, man. Yeah, that's exactly Sergey and Don. That's good. So what makes it a big promise is the free, like there's no, and the risk reversal is that it's free. There's no risk at all because it's absolutely free. right? Other parts of the scary offer is customer language. So we're saying we got 10 new clients for our agency. Those are words that are going to relate to you, right? Simple step-by-step process that they can follow, right? Means that it's going to be not hard to implement, like Sergey said. And finally, we got specificity. Like I'm telling you exactly how many clients we just generated on this exact thing. And so if you want 10 new clients, then of course, like if somebody put that exact same post and said, I got new clients doing this, and they said, do you want it? And then beside that post in the feed, you see somebody that says, I got 10, right? You're going to click on the one that says 10 because it's got specificity and because you understand, what you're actually going to get. The other part of specificity that isn't in that particular post, but that works really well, is the timelines. Because it's, if you put two offers up against one another, the one that you're going to get there faster with, and that actually tells you that, even if the other offer you would get there faster, but they don't have a timeline in it, you're going to perceive the under 90 days or in the next 30 days or whatever to be faster because you're actually given a feasible timeline that you can understand and you can adjust to. And so that allows you to crush that shit out. The other type of content on there is the launch post. This is a longer form post that literally lays out what you're going to get in your service or your Black Friday offer or whatever in a longer form piece. And if you want to see what one of those look like, you can go look at the last one I did yesterday on my profile. That's a launch style post. And then it just asks literally if they want in. So where the two steps are related to the overall offer, okay? Meaning they're not saying, hey, I've got the GSD program. Do you want in the GSD program, right? What they're actually saying is, inside the GSD program, there's organic training. So here's a cool thing on organic. Would you like to learn more about organic? And that allows us to start the conversation about that and then slowly introduce them to the rest of the material. The launch post is actually breaking down the full program or the full offer or whatever it is at that time. And that allows you to know that anybody that raises their hand for those ones, they're actually already interested in the full enchilada, right? They're already there for the whole thing because that's what you laid out inside the thing. So those conversations are going to be a bit easier. Now, those particular posts, launch posts, are going to be, done less frequently. Two posts you can do all the time. So we do a lot of sales, paid traffic. We do a lot of YouTube, Facebook ads training. There's all kinds of stuff inside the GSD. And so what we can do is we can break information about all those pieces up into two steps and do them all the time. And it changes up the narrative and the information and the story so much that we can do them quite frequently. We got a question in here from Mr. Chris. Do you sell organic marketing? Yeah. So we actually have a full, we sell it as a course. We don't do it. It would be intensive, but we do have an entire organic marketing thing, even inside actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's inside the fulfillment course that you have, Chris. So if you go inside of that, down near the bottom, the entire organic method strategy for them is in there. So it's a perfect stranger method in combination with a listing strategy and a pre-made chatbot that we have. So that works quite well for me. And then finally, guys, the third type of conversion-based content that we can layer in is going to be the mission post. You guys have all seen a mission post. I like to do a little bit of a different one nowadays. When I do my mission post, I no longer say the word mission in it. I'm actually just using the thing where I'm saying, I am going to get X amount of my avatar, this amount of result in the next X amount of days. So the last one I did, I think, was I said I'm going to take another 5 agencies or coaching programs to over $50,000 months in the next 90 days or something like that. And that's the same thing as a mission post saying it's my mission to help, 5 agencies cross $50,000 months in the next 90 days, right? That's the kind of thing that you're pulling in. So again, it's kind of similar to the launch post. You're getting people in your avatar to raise their hand and say, I want some help doing that. So you'll put your main scary offer, whatever your big end result is that you can accomplish for your end client. And you're going to tell people that it's your mission to help more people accomplish that. And that's it. It's the same thing. It's the same principle as just, actually letting your audience know what it is you do and getting them interested in having a conversation about what that's all about. Do that properly, and it allows your new people to cycle through and crush that shit. Finally, guys, the last thing I want to talk about is documenting instead of creating, because when I asked the question earlier about how many of you kind of get writer's block and get stuck because you're constantly trying to write brand new shit, right? You're constantly trying to create new information instead of just, repeating your message to people, with to teach them how to think content, just repeating, and allowing that to kind of fester in their brains and create inception on the idea and all of that kind of stuff. You're trying to do new angles, new stuff all the time. And one way around that, one way to get past that, is to actually document your journey, instead of trying to create brand new information every time. Now, what that means is, if you're creating a Facebook campaign, or you've got a good working Facebook campaign, you simply say that on Facebook. You go live and you talk about it. Talk about what you're doing right now. Talk about how you're doing it, why you're doing it, what's the strategy behind it. If you had some success, you've got a bunch of really cheap leads, or you've had a bunch of really good quality showings for your real estate client, or your dentist client, or your insurance client has got a whole bunch of new policies signed, or you're a coach and your students are absolutely crushing it. Document that stuff. You see me all the time sharing and celebrating student wins, because I'm documenting the journey of our students as they go along. Doesn't matter if it's that, like Mason crossed $350,000 in revenue in the last 10 months for us, or it's somebody that just brought on, their very first rookie contract client. I love every part of those journeys, and I like to share and celebrate and document every part of all of those journeys, because to me, that's why we do it. Right. But not only that, there's a strategic purpose that I want to relay to you guys here now as well. And that strategic purpose for you is that it will attract other clients. We have a couple of students that do it really, really, really well. One guy, Alvin, actually constantly just says, I'm launching a YouTube ad for this industry now. I'm helping this person do YouTube ads. That works really well. He generates clients from it just by saying to the world, hey, this is what I do. And this is how I do it. Excuse me. Do it correctly, right? And say those words in a way that's just documenting your process, and you'll be amazed at how many people, clients, students, whatever, you can attract to you just from that content, just by saying what it is you're doing. You're only going to get the writer's block and all those kind of scenarios going if you can't think of a brand new thing to do, because you're struggling so hard to try and think of a brand new story to tell, a brand new piece of content that can teach something differently than what you taught last week. You don't want to say, I'm going live and doing this again, because you don't want, Tom, Dick, and Harry to see the same posts as you did last week. You want to create something new for them. But that's just you getting tired of it because you're saying it over and over and over again. And therefore you're hearing it over and over and over again. And you're thinking everyone else is in that same exact boat, when it's simply not true. You're going to show it to different audience members all the time. And even the ones that do see the same thing, guess what? They need to see it because they need that repetition to actually drill that point home inside their brains. So document, guys, don't create. Anybody have any questions? I'm going to stop there for the content part of it. 3 main things, guys. You can come off mute, or you can
I want to ask one thing, Cody.
Go ahead.
I'm looking to do my mission post. So in my situation, because my clients are realtors, I was thinking I cannot do that in next 90 days or 60 days, because I don't know if they get deals, how much time it may take to close. So how about just saying, like, my mission is to help 7 new realtors to close, like add additional 200K in 2022, something like that.
I like it. I like it. I would also say, like, whatever we talked about the other day that your offer was going to be, just put that. My mission is to help 7 more realtors add 3 deals a month in 2022 to their bottom line in 2022, or something like that, or 2 brand new deals per month in 2022. Who wants to be something like that?
Yes. Yeah, that's all. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Cool. Anything else, Arya?
That's all. Thank you, Cody. Thank you always.
Appreciate you, Arya. Anybody else have any questions that they want to hop off mute and ask? If not, where are we at? All right, guys. So the 3 main takeaways, okay? 3 main sections. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just kind of curious about the organic aspect of it, because I know you help agents, which are pretty much similar to insurance agents, who just want leads. So, like, how do you kind of like go into the process of it?
Right? They don't want leads. That's not what they want at all. What they want is an end result. A real estate agent wants a listing or a buyer, right? A life insurance agent wants a policy, right? When you say the word leads to some of these people, especially now that they've internet marketers have been in these industries for long enough, what they think of is work, right? They're like, oh, I've gone down this path before. I don't want your shitty leads again. So that's why we need to go, a layer deeper and say, cool, well, I don't help you get leads. I help you get policies. Leads are a part of that. There's going to be leads, but it's the policies that we're going to help you actually accomplish through the rest of the system that differentiates. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Getting it, focusing on an end result. So this kind of like throwing something at the wall. Like, who would be interested in the process to where we can get you X amount of policies without spending any money on marketing or leads or vendors? Is that like kind of the gist of it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good starting point. That's a good starting point for it completely. I want to dive a little bit further. Like, honestly, like I would get somewhere where it's like, I'm going to help 10 more insurance agents add an additional 5 policies per month. Who's with me? Or who wants to learn how I'm helping insurance agents add new policies every single week without having to waste a shit ton of time cold DMing people or calling people all day long, right? Figure out their pain points the way they describe them, figure out their end results, and figure out what you can accomplish, and then put that into language like what I just laid out there for your different content pieces, and that's going to be what helps and gets the people on it.
Okay. And then just like you do organic prospecting for the agency, for like a real estate agent or life insurance agent, you pretty much like hop in groups and like friend people who are like the ideal customers.
Yeah, it's the same thing, right? It's exactly what you're doing for the perfect stranger method, only you're doing it for them. So like for a real estate agent, there's all kinds of like local buy-sell groups. And that's what we would teach them to do in the organic thing. Go to your local buy-sell groups where there's active people in your community, add people of house buying age and income that you see, and then post like the same content. You're teaching them how to think. Only now you're teaching them how to think content where you're going live. You're telling the story about how when you bought your first home, you didn't think you'd be able to afford it. Or you're teaching them how like you used to think that your rent was what you needed to pay, but then you learned that you could have bought a way nicer house and paid for your own damn house instead of paying someone else's rent, right? Teaching them how to think about things differently, and then using conversion-based content. You can even do like mission posts I've had them do where it's like, I'm going to help 5 first-time home buyers next year buy their first home for 5% down. Do you want to be one of them? Right? Simple shit like that. And the exact same strategic method as what we're doing for ourselves can work for them. We just have to have the right offers and the right strategy behind it, the same as what we do for us.
Okay. Thank you, man.
No problem, Chris. Appreciate you, my man. Anybody else have any questions? Give it a second. If not, cool. All right, guys. So the 3 things I want you to take away. Number 1, teach them how to think. Content is super important. It needs to be layered in there. It's how you're going to bust up objections before you ever even have to hop on the phone with any of these people at all. Conversion-based content we reviewed. You guys know that quite well. All right. Conversion-based content is what gets them to raise their hand, say, hello, I want to work with you. I'm interested in that offer. So teach them how to think has 2 different parts. It's your live stories. It's your written stories. Conversion-based content has 3 main pieces, 2 steps, launch posts, mission posts. And then finally, the 3rd part is consistency, strategicness, but also documenting instead of creating. Document your journey, tell people what it is you do, how awesome it is you are at it, and they will find their way to you guys. All of this will allow you to create a lot of revenue organically without having to deal with some of the bullshit that you have to do with on the other side. You can leverage that money to create some amazing paid ads, and maybe that's what I will teach you the next time I hop on here. Not next week, maybe the week after. We'll figure it out. Last minute here, guys. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? No questions. We got Mr. Ben still here. Ben, did you want to hop on for anything? Do you have anything to add to any of that, or?
No. I mean, if no one has any questions with what I've kind of got to do, if anyone's needs any help with script writing or objection or messenger objections and kind of moving conversation along through there, I'll open it up real quick for the last 10 minutes. If you guys need anything there, if not, then I think we can call it a successful Saturday.
Saturday, guys. That's where weekend brains kicking in. I think it's Ben's trying to get to Monday already, so we can start this up. All right, guys, you got 5 to 10 seconds to stop hiding from us and ask your question either to me or to Ben about Messenger if you have it. If not, forever hold your peace.
Going once. Anybody?
All
I just
right.
want to say thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank all of you guys, and thank you, Mr. Ben, for being here with me. Thank all the rest of you guys for showing up on a Saturday morning, getting shit done, and learning some organic content. Put this shit to use. Tell us all about it. Drop your key takeaways, guys, in the comments of this. I think that's something that you guys are always doing with Rahul for this shit. So put your comments, your takeaways from today in the comments below the Facebook Live. If you're in Facebook land watching this, or if you're on this right now, go hop over there and do it for me, please. I would appreciate it. Activates the algorithm, all of that good jazz. Other than that, guys, have a wonderful weekend. Get some shit done, and I will see you out there.